I know, it's like, I couldn't do it.
It looks good on her. Good style. Yeah. I liked it before.
Yeah.
Yep, he's online,
Oh,
I think,
no, not.
unless all the decongestions have hit in and he's
Mm,
he sounds like, he was in the ER too. He's taking Sudafed, let you get your blood pressure up. All right, I got 6 o'clock. Yeah. All right, good evening. It's April 21st and I'll call this work session to order. Looks like our deputy city manager has an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, member and council members. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce to you Mr. Robert Heacock from ETC Institute. A quick infomercial for ETC. They are a recognized leader in the field of data collection and analysis. They have helped local government agencies across the country to design and implement thousands of community surveys since the company's founding more than 40 years ago. They have approximately 1,000 clients here in North America, including here in Clark County. Our neighbors in Washougal have used ETC on a biannual basis for the past decade. They have conducted surveys that provide their council members and staff with relevant and scientific data concerning community perceptions, community priorities, things that can help guide the policymaking process, can help council members make informed decisions on the allocation of finite resources towards objectives. I'll defer to Robert on the description of the survey methodology and the results, but staff does believe that the survey provides valuable data that can be used in the discussion and implementation of policies, programs, and capital projects here in Battleground. This is a study session, so at the end of the presentation, council will not be asked to take any specific action, but I will say that staff feels confident that on a going forward basis, there is value and utility in conducting regular community surveys here in Battleground, perhaps on a biannual basis. We feel that we will include funding for that purpose in future budget requests that come to City Council for consideration. And if council members have questions during the survey, I'm sure Robert would welcome them. But unless you have any questions, Mr. Mayor, council members, I'll turn it over to Robert. Thank you.
Well, good evening. Thank you for that introduction, Rob, and Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be here. As Rob said, I'm Robert Haycock with the ETC Institute. We're based out of Olathe, Kansas, which is a suburb of the Kansas City metropolitan area. I'm going to walk you through as best I can. I'm going to be paging through here too, because my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. And a lot of detail. And I want to invite you, if there's something that's on your mind, please feel free to, let me know that you have a question at that point in time. Or if you want to hold your questions, that's fine too. Whatever works for you. My experience is sometimes people lose their train of thought, and unless you jot it down, they may not come back to it. So it's okay to interrupt me is what I'm saying. I'm used to that, and that's fine. This gives you a little bit, Rob gave you the numbers about ETC. This gives you more of a footprint of where we've been the last number of years across the country. We really enjoy working with local government, in particular county governments, because it's kind of where the rubber meets the road. And to help communities better zero in on and understand the needs of their community, and really to show a spirit of engagement to the public, we think is so important. Just the exercise sends the message that you as a city council care about what your citizens really think and want to put that together in an objective way and through a statistically valid survey. And that's what we've conducted here. We're going to walk through the agenda pretty quickly here. We're going to start off by giving why would a city want to do a survey like this? What's the purpose? What is the methodology? How was it conducted? In case you get questions, you may run into somebody who said, well, I didn't get a chance to to answer the survey. So it must not be valid. You can use this information to counter that. We're going to go over the satisfaction with the overall city services and perceptions of Battleground. Then we're going to talk about satisfaction of specific city services. Then we're going to look at how Battleground compares to other communities. So one of the things that makes ETC stand out in this field is that we have, from all those dots you saw on the previous map, we have background data all over the country. And actually, what we do for benchmarking, we divide the country into different areas, and we keep up-to-date information. Every 18 months. We update that so that your results are comparable. So it's always interesting. You can say, well, how we do on ourselves is part of it, but how you look when you compare yourself to others with maybe similarly situated resources or weather type of issues that you deal with here in Battleground. We're going to talk about investment priorities, and I'll save some comments for that before we get there, and then other findings based on some questions that were really pertaining to Battleground itself. And then I'll open for questions. So the purpose is different to some degree. There's motivation of different reasons why communities would want to do a survey. But overall, to get the community assessment is really the main purpose. That objective understanding of what the citizens think, instead of always hearing from the proverbial squeaky wheel or somebody who thinks that they represent their whole neighborhood. This way, it allows you to see, no, really the overall input. We want to be able to compare your performance to other communities. We also want to be able to show you investment priorities and help you understand from your citizen standpoint, what do they want to see you investing in? The methodology, we administered it both by mail and online during January and February of 2025. We had a goal at the start of 400 complete surveys. Had we hit that, we would have been at plus or minus 5% margin of error. We actually exceeded it with 405 surveys that being completed. And we had a final margin of error of plus or minus 4.8%. That's really good. I don't know if you're familiar with surveys, probably political surveys and things, but that's really good for a citizen survey. And I do want to take a moment to thank your staff, Rob in particular, for really taking this to heart. And I know he worked with your other staff to get the word out in the community. This is important. And if you get a survey, please complete it. So they're always making our job easier when you have a staff like that. So we're going to go through a number of slides really quickly, just to give you a pictorial, mainly understanding of where the responses came from. It's important for it to have credibility that we hear from all areas of the city. So you can see, regardless of what part of the city you're well represented. Then we'll go through, this shows a breakdown of age groups. If you want to talk about anyone in particular, let me know, but I'm just going to kind of page through these and you can kind of go back to them on your own. But basically you're seeing that it's a well-balanced survey and every age group is going to be represented. Both new and long-term residents were well represented as well. So you see the dark blue is those people I think have been there over 35 years. All income groups were well represented as well. All genders, so it's basically it was a 50-50 split between male and female. Now, one of the things we're going to talk about is the overall perception of Battleground that people have, and overall, what do they think about certain city services? Keep in mind that we're going to talk later more specifically. We'll talk just about public safety later and just about parks, and this is an overall view. Before I get into this, I want to explain what you're looking at. So essentially on a 5-point scale, 5 options for people to choose. The dark blue is generally going to be very satisfied to whatever the category is. It might be ambulance services or something like that. The light blue is satisfied or somewhat satisfied. The gray is neutral. And then you have the salmon colored, and maybe that's just because this is up north. Usually it's red, but it's salmon, is very dissatisfied or very dissatisfied. But one thing I wanted to point out is a lot of times when I look at this, and yes, it may jump out of the page there when you look at the second to the bottom, when it's how well the city is managing growth and development. that you had 60% of the people responding saying that they were dissatisfied or very dissatisfied. Yes, that's significant, but as you look through the survey and you're seeing these different numbers, it's easy just to focus on the dissatisfied. What I want to point out is a lot of our clients gain ground over time by focusing on the gray, focusing on the neutral. If you stop and think about it, your citizens took the time to answer a survey only just saying they don't have an opinion. And why is that? A lot of times maybe they don't have interaction with that particular service, or they don't have information. So a lot of times, especially with police department, public safety type areas, we encourage, when you see that, focus on, in 2 years, if you do a survey, or whenever it is you do your next survey, yes, you would like the dissatisfied to go down, but also it's easier for you to get more people in the satisfied by properly informing and reaching out to residents. So really examine what you're doing to do that. We had the overall feeling of safety in Battleground was very positive. Overall quality of life was very positive. And then you get to the bottom, you have some more concerns with issues like managing growth and development and availability of affordable housing, especially. Now we're going to get into specific city services. This has to do with public safety. Residents are mostly satisfied with the quality of satisfied with the quality of ambulance service and how they respond to emergencies. You do see here at the bottom, quality of animal control services, 48% are neutral. Maybe they don't have interaction with animal control, hopefully. But it's also could be a sign, hey, there's not a story in the newsletter or something that lets them know what is your animal shelter doing to really excel. And maybe you share that story, more of those folks would respond other than neutral. Next, we're looking at the quality of parks and recreation services, and mostly the quality of parks, the facilities and the appearance receive the highest levels of satisfaction. You did have pretty much the same in every category, almost. About a third of those were neutral, a little less than a third were dissatisfied or very dissatisfied, and a third or a little more than a third were in the very satisfied and satisfied. We want to look at satisfaction with city streets and sidewalks. Mowing and trimming along the streets and other right-of-way. Rated pretty well. Actually, what you're going to see, and sometimes I caution people too, when you look at this, you're thinking, well, that's not all that great. Only, 46% of the respondents are very satisfied or satisfied. But we'll wait until we compare the benchmarks, and you'll see how you fare when you look at how other communities are. Sometimes when it talks about mowing or street maintenance, I refer to that as the cafeteria food for city government. It's remember back in school, it didn't matter how hard everybody tried to make good lunches. We all had something bad to say about the cafeteria food. And that's going to be the case in government as well. Your services, some are going to be more valued than others. Now we're going to go to the comparison of the benchmarks. When we go into that, I want to point out that you're going to look at, you can look at this first one. Yes, it is really small, and I apologize for that. You're looking at Battleground is shown in green. The Northwest average is in kind of a light blue, and then the national average is in lavender. So you've got three items going on here, and really, I can say the Battleground is setting the standard for quality of police services, sewer services, and customer service from city employees. Those are the top three on the list there, and actually, we could have included the overall effectiveness of city management of stormwater runoff as well, because you're about 10% or a little less than 10% above those other averages. But take a look at the overall quality of police services. It doesn't mean that they're satisfied with everything going on, but they're certainly, you compare the averages, you're at 72%, and the regional average is 56, and the national average is 53. So that really stands out. You're doing something right there for sure. Perception is you have a strong, high quality police department. Same thing with city sewer services. Again, you're at 64%. The Northwest average is 59% and national is 53. Overall quality of customer service. This one is really, really very positive. And I say that because working with so many governments, customer service doesn't happen. Customer service doesn't just happen, I should say. Customer service is a result of your administration and you really stressing that from every aspect of what you do, from your hiring practices to how you conduct your meetings, maybe how you reward or acknowledge your staff for a job well done. What does that do? It motivates them to spread that towards and to be positive towards the public in their interactions. So this is I would really, really hang your hat on that you're at 63% satisfaction. We just don't see that a lot. The Northwest average is 38% and national average is 39%. So you've almost lapped the field, so to speak, when it comes to customer service, which I think should be really, really celebrated. You can look through those others as well. It gets to the bottom. Overall maintenance of city streets, the equal time, celebrate those areas where you're really doing great. This is not one of them. So understand that this is just a snapshot in time. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not doing things to already move that needle towards a more positive satisfaction levels. It's kind of like when I work with communities and they do a website, for example, and then they get scored low for their website by the public. And they're like, what are we supposed to do? We just invested all this money, time and effort and updated our, well, there are items that can be seen by the public right away and immediately, I should say. And then there are items that really kind of takes a while to kind of seep into that subconscious to move the needle. So some of yours, this doesn't necessarily mean you're not trying to do a great job. Mark's not doing a great job in public works of overall maintenance of city streets. It's just where things are right now. But at least you know that's a priority of the public moving forward. Next, we're looking at averages for perception of the city. The top two there are ones where you really compared to the Northwest average for overall feeling of safety and overall quality of services provided by the city, doing quite well. How well the city is managing growth and development, that's more of a challenge. At the bottom, where you have 17% compared to 39% for the national average.
Robert, do you ever dig into that last bullet point? I wonder if that's at all correlates to how quickly a city's growing. I imagine the more growth, the more angst you would have with that. And I wonder, do you ever parse out that data?
It can. We do see that. And we have some fast growing communities that experience those types of issues. What I would suggest is, not knowing where the hot buttons might be until we conducted this first survey and future surveys, we could work with your staff to identify maybe
Dig down.
to peel that onion back a little bit more to kind of show what's behind that. Is it, where is the dissatisfaction coming from? Yes, ma'am.
Are these numbers, the Northwest average and the national average, is that current numbers?
Yes, as I explained, we keep them current there within every 18 months, we update those numbers.
Okay, sorry, I guess I missed that you explained that.
I'm sorry?
I didn't realize you explained that. I'm sorry. Did I explain that?
Yeah, I mentioned it. I talk really fast. I lived in Minnesota for a long time, so they talk really fast because it's usually really cold. And so you want to get your words out as fast as possible. Okay, so we have looking at overall feeling of safety and quality of services provided. Next slide, Robert. So now we're looking into public safety, and you can see here in several categories, you've done a really, really good job. Overall quality of police services, overall quality of city sewer services, and overall quality of customer service. Again, did I go backwards? I went backwards, sorry. Apologize for that. I want to get into investment priorities, and this is something unique to what ETC does. Most every survey that you would conduct with any company is going to say, what's your level of satisfaction? And we've just covered that, right? We've just said, how satisfied are you? Well, let me give you an example that shows the importance of what we do at ETC to better understand, kind of like what the mayor was indicating we might do in other questions in other areas. if I was asked, how satisfied am I with dog parks? You give me a list of park services and programs and you said, how satisfied are we with the dog park? Well, I might say, I took my dog Buster there. He had a horrible time. He was chased around by these big dogs and it was bad. I'm very, very dissatisfied with the dog park. I might even come to a council meeting and tell you I'm very dissatisfied with the dog park. But then if you're asking me, well, how important is it? Really, what do you want to invest in? I might go, well, no, I had a bad experience, but I don't care. I'd rather you put your money towards youth programs or senior programs or athletics or ball field maintenance or something like that. So why is that important? Because to you as the decision makers, if we correlate those two, we correlate the satisfaction level with the importance, it's giving you a much more accurate picture of the true priorities that your residents may have. And I think that might, as we move through here, we'll see that a little bit. Again, very small print, but I know you hopefully have the hard copies. You can see them on your screens. Again, this is for major categories of city services. And what we've done is we've broken those out into what we call, if it reaches a certain level of a very high priority, or medium priority. It doesn't mean that there's areas on here that you shouldn't focus on, but it does highlight those that are in a strong voice from the citizens. A very high priority would be the overall maintenance of city streets and the overall effectiveness of city economic development efforts. Those really stood out when you look and compare those in terms of the ratings compared to some other areas. And even on an area like, if you look at the medium priority, understand that it's still a medium priority of the overall quality of police services, even though your citizens are very satisfied with the services they're receiving from the police department overall. Sometimes the message isn't, yes, it's broken. Sometimes the message is, we like where we are and we want you to continue funding that. Okay, so keep that in mind too, as you kind of work through these numbers later. And we're looking at public safety specifically. And the one item that jumped out as a very high priority is the city's overall effort to prevent crime. And I bet if I had a chance to sit down with Dennis and talk to him, he could tell me a whole bunch of things that his department is doing to prevent crime. But why is that a high priority? Well, maybe they think that they understand what the police department is doing and they want to continue that, or maybe they don't know what the police department is doing. But either way you look at it, it's a start of a conversation is how I frame it. So it's not a be all end all, it's just that snapshot in time. Now we look at priorities for the city parks. Actually, I don't think dog park is there, but I like that example. So you look at different areas related to parks. The one that ranked very well, several of them are very high priority, but the top of the list was appearance and maintenance of existing city parks and recreational facilities. And the quality of parks, facilities such as playgrounds, open space, and picnic shelters also scored pretty high.
I had a question.
Yes.
So on the city efforts to keep public informed, oh, I'm sorry, did you flip slides?
I'm sorry, for which one?
Do 2 slides back. Sorry, did you pop ahead? There we go. Appearance and maintenance of the city park, the one that was talking about
Oh,
there.
that one right
That one.
Okay, got
City
it.
Appearance and maintenance of existing city parks and recreational facilities. So is the data around the desire for more community center activities and aquatic center, is that all lumped into that particular one?
Well, yes, I mean, it is, this is talking about, I mean, just existing programs and facilities as opposed to new. So I don't know that it's combined in that number, but I'm understanding your question.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is it combined?
This is by itself. I think it's standalone as opposed to
Standalone. Okay.
when you're looking at
Okay. Thank you.
earlier. Yes. And we have community outreach. And you can really see three items really jumped off the page. City efforts to keep the public informed about local issues, level of public involvement in local decision-making, and availability of information with city programs and services. Again, this is not asking them to rate satisfaction by itself. It's also looking at how important is it. Now we turn to city streets and sidewalks. And again, you had three items that jumped ahead of the others. They were maintenance of major city streets, maintenance of streets in your neighborhood, and condition of sidewalks in the city. And what does that mean? It means that they're dissatisfied and they have some level of dissatisfaction, but they also rank it very high. It's very important. We look at priorities for codes and ordinances, very high priority. We had 4 items that registered that level. Addressing concerns about material, garbage, recyclables, and furniture, enforcing the mowing and trimming of grass and weeds and vegetation on private property, enforcing RV boat trailer parking, and responding to noise concerns or complaints, all rated very high from a citizen standpoint. Especially the first one, you look at addressing concerns about material, garbage, and recyclables and furniture, because that was the most important and the least satisfied of those. Well, almost the bottom of those. There's an other category which usually don't count, but of the named ones, we have the 6 named ones that we listed. You had that ranks 6th. Now we'll turn to some other findings, and this was related to specific questions that we wanted to ask about Battleground. So we wanted to ask more about development, and specifically different types of development, whether the citizens saw the rate of development in that particular category as too slow, as average, or fast, or much too fast. I think this is kind of revealing. So in terms of eatery and restaurant development, you can see that the community says, let's do more of that. Community says, we want more. We're much too slow. We had 27%, almost a third of the residents said we're much too slow to develop eateries and restaurants. Retail development was pretty significant too. But again, look at that in terms of average. You had a big group that's average. But you look at below multifamily residential development, the perception is much too fast, way too fast. They're not supportive of that, as they might be of other types of things.
Could you go back for just a second to that slide so I can put the paragraph too? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry? Oh, okay. We asked about unfunded parks, recreation, or public facilities projects that should be the top priority. In other words, in the next period of time, what should be the top priorities for the city in terms of a pool or aquatic center or new pathways or walking trails? Really, the pool or aquatic center and the new city pathways or walking trails rated very high. They could list 5 choices, and you can see first choice by a wide margin was a pool or aquatic center. Does that necessarily mean that the city knows and has a plan for exactly what it's going to do with respect to that? No, but it means that the public is wanting it to be engaged. The public sees that as something that could be missing in terms of available services offered to the public. It's worth conversation. Then finally, we're looking at would you still support any of your priority parks projects if it required an increase in taxes or fees or a bond measure approved by the voters? And not specific, not saying, would you approve, tax increase of this amount for this product, But in general, you listed on the previous one, you support all these ideas. Would you be willing to pay for it? Would you be willing to pay more for it? And nearly 2/3 actually said they would support an increase of some type. To feel what they, if it funds what they think are priorities. And again, this does not mean, okay, put something on the ballot tomorrow. But it means they would like to have a discussion with you. They want to understand what the options are. They would be receptive to that. And so then in summary, kind of what we what have we covered in the ground? We said residents are most satisfied with ambulance services, police, and sewer services. Residents gave high ratings for overall feeling of safety in the city, quality of life, quality of services, especially communication, customer service. Priorities for investment in major city services would be maintenance of city streets and effectiveness of city economic development efforts. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I just got a quick one on your diving into are you willing to pay more taxes? Do you have any breakout on percent of registered voters? Or do you break out that information?
We did not break that down. We don't have data from this survey in terms of were they registered voters or not.
Okay.
Sometimes we can, but that means that's not within the normal type of information that we
Yeah,
get.
'cause-
Usually it's more demographic based.
Thank you. Council questions?
I suppose it's a question. Two different pages and slides, but when it showed that people were most concerned about the growth of the city, and it didn't really specify, as Mayor McCoy had mentioned, that whether it's concerned that it's growing too fast or concerned that it's not growing fast enough. There was another slide towards the end that showed the demographic of satisfied, dissatisfied, and I couldn't help but notice that the dissatisfaction was high on multifamily housing and single family housing. And do you think that could potentially have a direct correlation with the previous overall
I'm not
concern
sure.
of the
Yeah, I'm
citizens?
not sure, Councilman. I'm happy to review that with your staff, and right up the top of my head, I'm not sure.
Thanks.
No further questions? Well, first of all, I find great value in this survey. I hope future councils continue it. It's just one point in time. Seeing a trend line and hopefully lifting up some of the ones we're not doing well and holding on to our gains, obviously would be the goal. So it's pretty obvious from this. We have a lot of city staff doing a lot of good work, and that was being recognized. And that was neat to see, from our police staff to our customer service. So that was heartwarming to see. But we obviously still have some work to do as well. But appreciate your work, appreciate your time,
Well, thank you.
and appreciate the city employees that got us a good grade.
I really enjoyed working with your staff. Not a huge staff, but quality. So quality matters over quantity sometimes. And you guys really run a professional shop here. I found everybody to be very responsive and knowledgeable about their area of expertise related to this. So thank you for the opportunity to be here with you. Look forward to hopefully working with you again someday. Thank you.
All right, with that, I think our work session is closed. See you back at our regular meeting at 7.
So, there we go. I thought there might be.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock and it's April 21st, 2025. I'm calling this regular meeting of the Battleground City Council to order. If you're able, please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance. Ms. Hilly, roll, please.
Mayor McCoy,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Bowman is absent this evening. Councilmember Kuipers,
Present?
Councilmember Ferrier,
Present. Sorry.
Councilmember DeRozier,
Here.
Councilmember Davis, Councilmember Overholser,
Here.
and the clerk is present. That concludes the roll.
Must have been a rough week of training. Next up, we have agenda approval. Now would be the time if you want anything removed or added. Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve the meeting agenda as presented.
I have a motion by Councilmember Ferrer, second by Councilmember DeRozier. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Brings us to council member reports. This is the time when council members report out on any board they sit on behalf of the council. And we'll go ahead and start off with Councilmember Ferrer.
So in regards to Echo, there was no meeting, so I have nothing to
Okay.
present.
I'll let
Yeah.
you go ahead and do the Urban County Policy Board. Councilor Ferrer is stepping up to take that one over. That's a mayoral appointment, so by their rules. So she was alternate already. So she'll be taking the lead on that. So did you have a report on that one?
Yes, on that one, there was a mention to everybody at that meeting, from, Counselor Young, that there is the old WIC building. That property is up for sale, and I believe May 6th is when they're going to be talking about that at their next council meeting. And wanting to know from this board if we want to maybe get a letter and come at them with, we would like to purchase that property so we can use it towards our downtown revitalization, since parking is a big issue in that area.
I think they still have to decide whether they can recite those services. Are they at the point where they're selling it already, or they're just talking about selling it?
So right now they have 3 options. They can either keep it but that they don't have necessarily the funds to fix that building, which is going to be a minimum of $1.7 million. The other option they can do is sell it to CMAR for $1. But then there's going to be restrictions on that property where they're going to have to use it for aiding with or providing services for, low income households. And so they would have to do that for at least, for 5 years is what HUD has it as, 5 years. And the third option is to sell it at market value. And Counselor Young had made mention of it. So if any one of us, I think that was the purpose of why he put it out there in that meeting specifically, because it is in Battleground, and wanted to know, and he was like, saying that if we wanted to send him an email, so then he can bring that to his board and it would further their discussion. I did watch the last board meeting on county council to see, I think it was February 26th, to see where they were at it. It was kind of tossed up in the air. At first, it seemed like they were all, well, CMAR's interested in this, let's give it to them. But then they were like, well, maybe that's not the best space for CMAR. Maybe we could put CMAR somewhere else. So then I thought I would bring it to this board to see, well, let's have a discussion and see where we stand on it. Yeah.
Well, I know we did talk to Council Chair Sue Marshall about it, and I think they're still deciding on whether CMAR can be have the services be elsewhere. But I mean, personally, I'd be in favor of pursuing the idea. I don't know that we can afford the whole property, but we do have a realtor on staff that can maybe do a CMA and start the process and talk to the county. I'd be fine with that. Or
My-
private partnership, maybe somebody else, private company wants to buy it and we can put somebody towards parking. I'd be interested in all those partnerships myself.
I did already send a letter as well, but I like the idea of them selling it. We can utilize it for parking.
Yeah, for those that aren't aware, it's $1.7 million in repairs and there's a $200,000 grant to repair it. So the grant's not gonna get that horse across the finish line. So, but I think the county needs to make sure that they can cite those services elsewhere first. So I think that's first step.
I agree. I agree. Definitely the services. We don't want to lose services to that community. But I also know that when, however they decide to sell it, those funds will go back to CDBG. And we are concerned, if I remember correctly, with absences of funds or lacking of funds, this could help get some more projects under, or help with more projects for 2025.
Sure could.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it would be possibly advantageous for us as a council, the same way Councilwoman DeRochers wrote a letter in, if we could as council collectively write a letter from the city to the county and say, hey, we would be in favor of you putting that up at fair market value. There is, I've heard also possibilities of a way to again, I don't know about public-private partnership, but a way to retain, so bulldoze the old building, build a new Main Street frontage. Again, this is long-term, but possibly be able to retain a WIC office in the facility that would enable that to still serve the WIC customers, but also enable additional parking for the city.
I think at this point, the takeaway is keep the options open and be involved in the conversation. Councilmember Overholzer, EMS, do you have a report on that?
Yes, I do. Thank you,
Good.
Mayor. All right, so we're finally getting some things done over at EMS. It's been making some good headway. I know things were getting a little tight there for an RFP. So we do have approval. We've given approval for the piggyback off of the City of Vancouver's ambulance service contract. So that should buy us some additional time. There is still potential questions on readiness fees that could be levied towards the City of Vancouver and EMS2 as a district, but there's some bargaining that can happen there. We've also given a pre-approval for an interlocal cooperative purchasing agreement with the City of Vancouver. So to see if we can still go back to an interlocal with them, that would be the best, I believe, for EMS2 and the City of Vancouver would take away the readiness fees and go back to the relationship that we had last year. Chairperson Marshall, and she's going to be heading up the conversations with the City of Vancouver on that. So we'll know more in the future. There was discussions about the additional board members being added to the board, and that has been approved from the county council. So now we're in discussions on modification of the bylaws for that. We had conversations about the length of term for the additional city representative, and the current city representative, myself, would be a 2-year term. And the fire commissioner that would represent the fire districts would be a 1-year term, I believe. And then, yeah, so as a city, we will be seeing a new EMS interlocal agreement coming back to us for signature after all these changes have been made. And it looks like it'll be Battleground retaining for another 2 years, and La Center will be added as a small city rep, and Fire District 3 will be the first district that'll bring forward a commissioner for that 5th member. And that's all I have.
Very good. Councilmember Davis did share with me there's no report from mosquito board. I wanted to give her credit for going to the meeting though. And that brings us to the CTRAN meeting report. Not much to just report there. The horse that is the language was postponed yet again, meaning the language on the funding of the light rail. So that's postponed at least another 3 months for all kinds of reasons. But essentially, it's postponed for 3 months, mostly for litigation within the county council. So no decisions really made there. We do have a retreat tomorrow all day. So for planning purposes, they did share that in June will be the budgetary impact and approval for current and coming to Battleground, with rollout still planned for September. And they are very interested in, I got them in touch with the senior group so they could do a rollout meeting in August or July for the seniors pending June budgetary approval. Any other council member reports? Okay. Believe that brings us to presentations and a new employee introduction. Mr. Hersick.
Have Caleb come up and join me. So this is Caleb Smith. He's our new maintenance worker in sewer. He was a plant operator at the city of Rockaway from March of 2021 to just before he took this job. His first job was cleaning hot tubs, and he spent almost 5 years volunteering at Rockaway Beach Fire and Rescue. He's getting married on May 24th. His fiance's name is Allie. He's got water and wastewater treatment certifications, water distribution, and a firefighter certification. In his free time, he likes target shooting, amateur radios, scanners, and programming and tinkering with them. Fun fact about him is he was born a redhead. I'll give Caleb a second to talk.
Mr. Mayor, city councilors, I just wanted to say I appreciate the opportunity the city of Battleground has given me. It worked out pretty well because I actually moved into an apartment that's only about 10 minutes away from my place of work. So seems to be working out pretty well. So I just wanted to thank the city of Battlegrounds for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And I'm loving it so far, and I hope to continue.
Yeah. Yeah. Rain's a little bit less though, less foggy. Yeah, your car will last longer. Great to meet you, Caleb. Welcome to the family and looking forward to many years.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, that brings us to citizens communications portion of the meeting. We'll now open the meeting for those. Individuals are limited to 3 minutes. It's opportunity to hear from members of the public, not an opportunity for extended comments, dialogue. Please refrain from derogatory remarks, personal attacks, and especially this time of year, campaign speeches and applause. Although the city council desires to allow public comment, the city's business must proceed. Please direct your comments to the mayor. Council normally does not respond to individual comments, but we may refer citizens to a staff member for assistance, or we ourselves may do that. There are some business cards there by the clerk, and if you do have handouts, please do give them to the clerk. So thank you for your understanding and participating in this. Do we have anybody on Zoom when you start off with?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so I will go through. We have Michael Ernest, Rotary.
Good evening, Mayor, and fellow members of the City Council. Thank you very much. My name is Michael Ernest. I have 2 items of interest for everyone this evening. One is obviously the Rotary Club of Battleground, which you may have heard of which I am pleased to be the president-elect, which is to say the president for the next club year. You may have seen some of the events that we do here in the holiday season, the Festival of Breeze and Wine down here at the community center, now the event center, right? That's some of the fundraisers that we do. The funds that we raise go to make Battleground a better place. I regret that the gentleman who was here earlier would not be able to appreciate the detail, but you may have heard of Rock Solid or the North County Food Bank. We also have the Old Town portion of Main Street, which is our pet project, keeping that clean. We look forward to taking care of that before Harvest Days kicks off later in the summer. So there are many things that we do. Our 29 members are just infinitesimal part of the 1.4 million Rotarians in the world that are all dedicated to the health, safety, and well-being of their communities and the globe in general. That's one of two things that I wanted to talk about. The second thing is that the State Treasurer, Mike Pellicciati, was kind enough to be our guest speaker next month, May 14th. And the State Treasurer says that his presentation is titled State Finances, Long-Term Policy. He will focus on work he is leading through his office to improve the financial outlook for state government, local municipalities across Washington, as well as working families and retirees in every corner of the state. The venue is still being worked out. It may be at the library. It may be at the event center. We're looking forward to communicating with the Reflector and other media to get the details set up. But you're welcome to attend, although the seating may be limited considering the space available. And as well, you're welcome to drop by Galiotti's any Wednesday evening and visit our Rotary Club at its meeting time at 5:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for that informative comment. Next up, we have John Kieran. That was close.
Thank you to all of you for hearing me this night. My name is John Furkeron, and I've lived here in Battleground on Northwest 708 Northwest 5th Avenue for the last 34 years. And I'm concerned about the words and things I hear of a street being put in from Parkway out to 503. And that comes up off and on, and it's come up off and on for the last 34 years. But that neighborhood over there is a very quiet neighborhood. We have the kids coming in from Chief Umtuck, from Captain Strong, that walk that street, those streets every day, Northwest 5th Avenue, going to school, and Northwest 7th Street, going over there to the school also. And I'm just have to say that I'm opposed to a street going in on 6th that then intersects with Northwest 5th Avenue, Northwest 6th Avenue, and also Northwest 3rd Avenue. That opens that whole area up over there to traffic and other things that come with traffic into that particular area and that neighborhood. That neighborhood has been a very nice neighborhood over the last, like I say, 34 years. And I don't want to see it changed too much to where we have a lot of traffic. I know that the school probably needs buses to go back out to 503 and cars from different places. I know that we added in Ornsdorf up there, now goes all the way through, and that helped probably traffic. And everybody's concerned about the traffic on Main Street, which is not unusual. And I know that 2:30 in the afternoon gets a little hectic around there whenever school's out. But I've lived with it all these years and it hasn't been a problem. I just don't use it. But anyway, if some of you are concerned about maybe where I come from, that you can understand what I'm saying. I grew up in South Carolina, joined the Coast Guard, and for 20 years I flew search and rescue to all over the world pretty much. Then I flew for Horizon Airlines for 14 years and another airline, Empire FedEx, for another bunch of years. So I've been retired a few years and we love our area and we'd like to see it continue to be a nice, quiet neighborhood over there without the cars and the traffic and the parking. But I appreciate you hearing me and thank you very much.
For comments, John, thank you for your service. Next up, Deborah Taylor. Sure, I got that name right.
Hello, my name is Deborah Taylor, and I spoke last fall in regards to a man named Keegan Anderson that lives out here in Battleground or has since the age of birth, I think. He took advantage of me and my credit cards and my finances. I did receive a protection order because it's considered domestic violence, but I wanted to give an update on what's taken place in the last 9 months. He was arrested late December for theft 1, theft 2, identity theft, money laundering, and also unrelated hit and run case that happened in 2022 involving your community and Clark PUD. My case sits with the prosecutor's office. The other case is moving forward. I've spent over the last 9 months doing my own investigation regarding my case. And in that investigation, I've been to many agencies, LNI, I've been to the child support office because it all involves and relates into his life and what's been going on and how he takes advantage of scams and uses every system there is. With the prosecutor's office, I leave messages. I've tried to talk to the office manager. I've tried to talk to Tony Golick, which is an elected official, which I have a right to speak with. He's never once reached out to me or the office. I do have an advocate with the prosecutor's office, and she's been very gracious and talked with me many different times. Through VPD, I've worked with, I had an investigator, Travis Brown, who worked with me until after the end of the year. At the beginning of the year, he moved positions, told me and the prosecutor's office he'd have a new investigator. There's never been one put on. There's a lady that I can talk to, but she does not return phone calls or emails. And so I tried to talk to another Lieutenant Harris, and he did talk with me a little bit, but other than that, my case still sits. LNI did nothing because this is in relation to also a company that he works. It's not legit, no license, bond insured. He's wronged many people in the communities all around this area. Wronged equipment companies. There's many things that have gone on. In my investigation, I went to all of my credit card companies, talked to people, talked to businesses. This man has taken advantage of people to $1.6 million in our community, and nothing's being done. He scams people, he scams women, men, found out he's bisexual, he frauds people, he damages equipment, he's damaged properties, he's left just a trail of disaster. He doesn't take care of his child support orders. And when he was arrested and in custody, he stated he works under the table so he doesn't have to pay child support. In my case, there is, with Clark County, because a lot of it happened all over, there's no private property crime department or division or person or investigator. Also, there was elder abuse cases. And I found out in my research that they don't have people in that division anymore as well. Well, the man that he lived with for the last 10 years, he took advantage him also and took advantage of his credit cards and his finances. That man's bankrupt. That man's 79 years old and elder. He's the one that told me the only thing he can do is go to the police. So I did. Nothing's being done. He still drives unlicensed, uninsured. And my question is, what is going on and why? I just sit back and I wonder, and I'm not in this realm of people and agencies, but this isn't working. And if this is one person, there's many people in our community and people that are not getting the protection. I don't feel safe. Thank you.
Sorry you're going through that, Deborah. You're going to reach out? Okay. Sounds like Chief may be in touch. Bruce, I'm struggling on the last name. Okay. Looked like a Z. Your A looked like a Z. You make my handwriting look good.
Yeah, for the, yeah, I could have been a doctor. Yeah, I just play one on TV. Yeah. For the record, my name is Bruce Barnes, and I'm a lifetime county resident. And I'm here to speak on a few different things. One of them being the light rail stuff that you guys brought up. And I appreciate you guys that are on that board postponing this during this, you know, trying time that we've got with other members. And like I said at the CTRAN meeting, I question some people's integrity, and that's why I'm here tonight, right? Because I think there's some manipulation going on. I think there's been some coercion going on, and I see the disaster, which is the city of Vancouver. You know, people look up to that area, but I live there. I don't. And when you see what they've done with the Fourth Plane Corridor, all it's turned into is a homeless transit system where they put the walk lanes on the side of Fourth Plane and turned the whole Fourth Plane into one lane in each direction. It's an absolute traffic jam, traffic disaster. Business people are irritated, really irritated. And CTRAN, to me, doesn't work. I mean, when you double the budget and you only have $15 million coming in, and I just saw today on the news that TriMet's cutting 50 of their bus lines because they're broke, I don't think this is going to work. And then I watched KATU, and my dad's the one that started that project 35 years ago. He's the Department of Transportation Commissioner, Ed Barnes. And when I've been looking through all his documentation and the amount of money that has been spent, they could have built that bridge with that money already. There's not been one piece of soil turned over, right? And when they're talking about a $20 toll, do the math on that. You know, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. That's $10,400 to the working class person. And the working class person is going to go on those peak hours, right? They're going to drive peak home. They're going to drive peak to work, right? So I would caution you on this. And also, you know, talking about smaller communities not having a vote, right? And having to combine smaller communities. This, again, seems like a manipulation to me, right, of the system so they can get their point across, right? And there's big money involved in this. And when I brought up the man's name that not only is in charge of the Oregon Department of Transportation, but the Washington Department of Transportation, and also owned the consulting firm in the first place, tell me there's not something weird going on there. And then he came and sat right next to me at the meeting after I made those comments, which I thought was even stranger. So I just, you know, asked him some questions that he couldn't even answer. Like, how long does it take to go from the Expo Center on light rail down to downtown Portland? He couldn't even answer that simple question. While you're driving through the middle of ghetto and Interstate Avenue, where there's multiple shootings daily, it takes 40 minutes to get downtown Portland. Now, does that seem like a efficient way to travel? I couldn't do that as an electrician to go to all the jobs I have to go to. So I'm just urging you, please take a good look at this as a smaller community, and don't vote to have your city encompassed into the city of Vancouver, because when you look at the taxes they're imposing on businesses, renters, and Airbnbs, you can't afford it, not to mention what the state legislation has just done by raising the cap to 3% on your property taxes. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
And next up, Jessica Cole. I think the 3% died today, didn't it? Go ahead. Sorry, Jessica.
No, it's okay. Hi, City Council. My name's Jessica Cole. I was going to tell you about Drug Take Back, which you might already know is happening this Saturday at the police department from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And some of the folks that help with that regularly are the Dream Teams from 3 of our middle schools, and also Cascadia Tech Academy. One thing I like about having that drop off is the last time I went through, I think it was a year ago, it was last year. One of the Cascadia Tech students, they ask some questions, and I knew the answers, and they're like, do you know where to drop off expired medication year round? And I did. And one of them is at the police department inside, and one's Albertsons, and one is Safeway. That's here in Battleground. There's other places throughout the county. Personally, I appreciate, even though it's drive-through, you don't even get out of your car. It's just a quick connection. I really appreciate it. For me, a very social person, just building that connection, even though it's really quick. One thing that is not allowed at these are sharps, so needles. And someone at Albertsons, when I was dropping off flyers, one of the pharmacists told me like where to go. Well, I knew where to go, but he told me more detail down at the transfer station on 503. When you go in, if you head towards the right, towards like recycling, and you're at a stop sign and you go under the covered area, and there's some red boxes on the right, and you put your sharps in there, and it was super easy. Let's see. And I just really want to say thank you so much for the police department for helping with this. It can't be done without them, like literally, legally, like handing over all these medications. And there are some areas that they're choosing not to do the drug take back and just have it throughout, you know, the cities at the other drop boxes. And I just want to say thank you so much to the police department for keeping this up, even though we might not get like, you know, 50,000 people showing up. It gets medications out of homes to keep people safe from, you know, potential misuse or overdose. So I hope the department keeps it up, and thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. That concludes the people that signed up. Is there anybody else that got inspired? No? Okay. That closes the citizen communications portion of the meeting. That brings us to consent agenda, items A through I. I didn't have anything I wanted to pull off, but I just wanted to ask a quick question on item F, if the company for the slurry and Cape Seal is different from the one from last year.
They are different from the one from last year. I think they did 2 years ago, if you remember the chip seal on East Main Street, it's that same company.
Okay. Any member of council see a need to pull anything from the consent agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda in its entirety as presented.
Motion from Councilmember Ferrer, second from Councilmember DeRochers. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Okay, that brings us to the public hearing portion. I'll hand it over to Megan for a quick introduction on ordinance 2025-03.
Good evening, council. Before you have an ordinance amending the Battleground Municipal Code Title II Administration of Personnel related to the Salary Commission. You have the opportunity to accept public comments and modified code regarding changing the municipal code related to its salary commission, removing public hearing requirements, and adding mandatory public comment period at commission meetings. And with that,
Okay, so I'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 3:33 PM for public testimony. Individuals are limited to 7:33 PM. I'll now open the public hearing at 7:33 PM for public testimony. Individuals are limited to 3 minutes to provide comment on ordinance 2025-03, amending Battleground Municipal Code, Title II, Administrative and Personnel, Chapter 2.86, Salary Commission, Section 2.8603, duties, Section 2.86040, open meetings. All comments should be directed to the mayor. Anybody in attendance want to comment? Anybody online?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Going once, going twice. There's too many threes in that. I'll now, seeing no further members of the public wishing to speak, I'll now close the public hearing at 7:34 PM. And can we get the ordinance title read, please?
Ordinance number 2025-03, an ordinance amending Battleground Municipal Code Title II, Administration and Personnel, Chapter 2.86, Salary Commission, Section 2.86.030, duties, Section 2.86.040, open meetings.
So Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 2025-3 as presented.
Second.
Who was the second?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Councilmember Ferrer, second by Councilmember Kuipers. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Bringing us to our business portion of the meeting. And again, Megan, first quarter financial review, overview, sorry.
You can see the trend back in a lot of the where we used to very well there. We're at 59 single family compared to my commercial expertise. Looking at what that means for us, we collected 313,000 in permit revenue. Building plan tax are also down slightly, which that doesn't tell you a whole lot. Last year we were up and then year. Development review, we are up significantly, which means that it's going to be project in August. That's a 236,000 compared to 2,000. Our tax review, we collected 508,000 compared to 2,000. We're about 50,000, so we're actually. And then looking at parking tax fees, we're at 256,000 compared to 141,000. So overall, we're up 1.5, or at 1.5 million, which is 70.7%. That's a pretty good number. So we're not going on there. Looking at our people, we collected so far. Oh, thank you. That's not good. So for our interest income, we're at 942,000 across all funds compared to 980,000 last year at the same time. So rates are down slightly, but they're still not low. They're still what we would consider record-setting high. So average earnings across all of our funds is at 3.8% compared to 4.4% last year at the same time. Looking at overall general fund revenues, we are at 8.2 million and our budget's 26.7 million. So we're on track for that. Our budget expenditures wise, we're at 5.5 million as our budget is at 27.2 million. Looking at our real estate excise tax revenue, our home sales continue to be strong. You can see that again, correlated back to those low interest rates in 2020, 21, and 22. We saw a significant jump, which also has to do a lot with our development activity or new subdivisions going in. And then we kind of tapered back down in 23 and 24. And I think we're on track to be in that same range for 25. Again, don't have a crystal ball, but just based upon what we're seeing. And it also has to do with home sale prices. I actually looked back at what a home cost in a neighborhood that's listed today for $575,000, but it sold in 2018 for $365,000. So it's a 57% rate or market value increase, which is pretty significant. So looking at our funds, our street fund, our revenues at 14.2% of budget to actual, and expenditures are at 6.8%. The work for street preservation is taking off. We have the contracts being let, and that work should begin this summer, and then we'll start to see the expenditures related to that. Our parks fund, we're at 27.2% of our parks revenue. That has to do with we're getting very strong rentals at our event center, which is great. And then our park expenditures is at 21%. And then unrelated to that particular fund, obviously you see Kiwanis Park and the great infrastructure that's happening there. So that's taken off, and hopefully we will see that done sooner rather than later. Looking at our storm drainage fund, we're at 20.6% for our storm revenue. So we're on track. And then our storm expenditures are at 14.4%. Our water fund, we are at 6.4%. A lot of that budget has to do with grants that we receive and not necessarily our water services. We're on track for our rate revenue, which is the important piece of the budget. And then our water expenditures, again, we're at 8.6%. That seems low, but that's because a lot of that 12 million is capital projects related, but we're on track with our operational budget. Looking at our sewer fund, we're at 15.7% of budget to actual. Again, we're on track with what we'd expect at this time of the year. And then our sewer expenditures are at 27.4%, which is slightly high, but that has to do with some early expenditures that we have seen. That being said, for our debt, our GO bond for Scott and Way is at 2.7 million. Water revenue bond is at 1.3 million. And then our sewer revenue bond at 4.7 million. Again, our debt is very low. And then looking at our overall, where our cash and investments are, we keep the majority of our funds at LGIP as they have the highest rate of return for us. So that's where our money goes. We do still have some at the county pool, which has risen over the last year to be almost competitive with LGIP, but not quite. We do have some long-term investments that we were able to lock in at actually 5%, which is fantastic. And then 88% of the funds shown here are restricted or committed for specific purposes, as we've discussed before. While it may seem like we have a lot of money, it does have specific ties to it per state law and or restrictions placed upon them. With that, are there any questions?
Council, chime in.
What was the sewer expenses that we incurred early this quarter?
I believe it's related to repaired. No, it's actually related to the EQ and Raptor. So the finishing pieces of that capital project happened sooner in the year, and it's actually done now, I believe.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yes.
All right.
I just have a comment. Oh, did you have something?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Looking at the survey results earlier, when it was talking about how we're building too fast, especially multifamily. I thought it was interesting that we had no permits in 2024 and none so far. So anything that's being developed had to have been permitted years ago.
I think they see the big pros that just went in and then they see the Deacon sign. And so I think that gives the impression that we're definitely having more multifamily than maybe we are
But technically we haven't, right?
in the
So,
last
I
few
mean,
years now.
okay, thank you.
So it's not, well, it's kind of related, but it's probably more of a Mark question. So at the council retreat, you were good enough to give us a list of 4 streets that came out to about $8 million. Based on, and in the past, this council has put $1 or $2 million towards streets in the past. If council was to do something along streets, would you be amenable to bringing forward a plan, or would you like more direction? Or how many of those projects, essentially, of those 4, would you feel comfortable doing a year? I don't think you'd want to tear up the whole city, but well, maybe you would. I don't know how much of a masochist you are, but anytime an engineer gets to improve something, never say never. But I'm just looking, it's like, as we look at this budget and as we look forward in the budget process, I'm trying to get my head around what is possible and what is recommended.
I would want to take a minute to research that, to kind of think it through, talk a little bit to Megan to figure out cash flow. And then like you talk about making sure we don't have everything torn up at the same time. There's always advantage to doing as much as you can, just you get some cost savings for not mobilizing twice and those sorts of things. But we would just want to think through more about not how we, kind of stagger that to make sure that there are alternate routes for everything. So I'd be happy to work with Chris and Megan to bring something back on that.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that. And then also I've talked briefly with Megan and Chris about what it looks like financially from officers and FTE and having that come forward. And I think we need to look at it holistically and not piecemeal. So, we are in a good position financially as evidenced by the report and some sound decisions. I would just like to see and maybe this is part of the budgetary process and is coming forward, but I'm feeling like on those 2, especially looking at the survey results and looking at our budgetary position, I'm not sure either of them are really something we want to wait till November. I would rather see the discussion start and let's have a robust discussion up here on the dais about those. I think for me, those are two bigger ones, and we'll see where we end up in the budget process with the state as far as what help we get. But I would ask council what they think about that, and if there's anything they would like to add or subtract from that conversation, or because I believe we've talked about not doing the budget committee and maybe doing work sessions as a whole council instead. Well, and there's another quarterly coming up, the retreat, and we can talk about it then at the same time. But I know when I was on budget committee, I felt like we went to budget committee and then we came back and then we heard the same things. So anyway, I'd open up the floor to comments if I'm just off my rocker or not.
No, you beat me to the punch. I was going to say, I was getting very excited about those numbers and like, how can we jump on streets? Because yeah, that survey definitely identified that as the biggest concern of our constituents is, that and the police, obviously. I think all of our hearts go to that and how can we help with that? So yeah, I'm in full support of what you just suggested, Mayor, that we bring that up. My mind is going to a slide presentation that you provided, Mark, that was talking about, what was it? If currently we're putting aside 1.2 million for roads, and then we'll be at a certain, deficit. You gave a percentage. And then how if we just increased it by I think to 1.6 or something, that would get us a lower deficit.
Yeah, my yearly street preservation, I have the kind of metrics for that, which I can bring back.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that although there wasn't showing a gap in the police service and people were happy, they wanted to maintain that level of service. And with the population growth, to Chief's presentation, I think it's important that we don't lose that gain. So we don't want to put all our chips on roads and lose our gains on police. So that's my thought process on that.
Mayor, my thought was, as we discussed, an additional day for like a half day for council to come together.
we've been shopping this with staff is potentially using the results of that survey and sort of creating and framing up potential goals for all of you to sort of choose from. We won't refine them, but I think it's best to sort of dish up what we can and then show you projections in terms of budget impact, if that's what you're
That's,
open to.
that's, yeah, what the long-term budget projections. I mean, obviously we have the roads would be a one-time cost and police is an ongoing cost and then obviously you have to throw in the amenities, pool, baseball fields as well. So I think those are, yeah. The people want to pay for it. I'm not going to stand in the way of them voting on that. So, yeah, that'd be great. Maybe we can get some dates together for a retreat and have more informal conversation. That'd be great. Good work, Megan. Appreciate it.
Good.
That brings us to administrative reports. Any admin reports today?
Yes, I'm going to ask Mark to give you just brief updates on a couple of projects that we have going on because Lord knows we have several that staff works on, but ones that were asked about a lot, especially with what's going on at K Park. So I want to turn it over to him just about, I don't know, 4 or 5 projects, give you brief update and sort of a anticipated completion date.
So for K Park right now, they're working on the pickleball shelter. They think they'll have that done by the end of this week. Once it's done, they'll go to the surfacing of the court. The materials for that are on site. It's just a matter of getting the shelter done. Basketball court's been poured and the poster set. Once the steel crew is done with the pickleball courts, they'll move over to finishing that one. And they think about 2 weeks after they start to have that. So right now, their anticipated completion date for everything is end of May. For the senior center, the construction on that's going well. The completion date they have right now is May 20th, give or take. They've ran into a couple things. We found some mold that they had to remediate. So it's added a little bit of time to the contract, but they're essentially right on schedule. For Northeast First Street sidewalks, we're working through HUD's environmental process. Sounds like that's nearing completion. We're only pending public notifications, which Clark County works on. The next step, and our consultant's already working on it, but we need temporary construction easements for the abutting property owners just to make sure driveways tie back correctly, those sorts of things. So however long that process is, we'll have when construction starts, because we should be ready to go once that process is done. Last one on my list is the Flow Row Park equipment. We're currently working through the contracting requirements with Department of Commerce. All the tribal coordination and DAP process has been completed. So essentially the environmental work is done and we anticipate construction in Q3. So I'm happy to answer any questions about those or any other project that I didn't talk about.
Anybody have any other questions he didn't mention?
Questions or follow-ups? You said Flow Row?
Mhm.
That's Florence. Is that
Yes.
north or south? Is
South.
that the replacement of the south, right? Equipment?
Yep.
Okay. And then K Park, you mentioned at the end of May
Mhm.
is what they're, can you remind me what the hours, the sign is posted for the hours? Cause that's gonna be.
Are we talking
Yeah,
park hours?
Yeah.
So I actually went to Parks Board at the last meeting to talk about park hours.
Okay.
And at the next meeting, they're going to come back with essentially a recommendation for you all. And then I'll bring that here to see if you agree with it or not. Some of what we're exploring is right now hours are dawn to dusk across the board. So one, does that make sense? Does it make sense across the board, or should we have different hours for different, skate park, the 2 covered shelters, which will have lighting, those sorts of things? Should they have independent hours? So they're all looking at that, plus some just park rules in general. Is there anything we want to add or take away from what we have? So I'll have more information May. Second Wednesday in May. Yeah.
Thank you.
Reminds me, have we heard any updates about the commodes or whatever, the loose?
The loose.
Yeah.
We are working through some ADA issues with that. So We're very close to ready to go, but we have to kind of solve the problem before we can go to bid.
With Kiwanis Park and the senior center, those are coming up in May. So are there going to be like any open house or any woohoo happening?
Yes, we have a very special event planned for council on the opening of the pickleball courts. It'll probably be, I'm going to say June. We are tentatively planning a ribbon cutting grand opening for the senior center on Tuesday, June 4th, I believe is it the 4th? That Tuesday of the first week of June. And we're working with the chambers and some other groups, and we'll invite the legislators that helped secure that funding. But tentatively put that on your calendar for June 3rd. 4th, sorry, Tuesday, the 4th.
That's reason. No other updates on any projects, Mark?
I mean, I can tell you about 20th, but
Oh, yeah.
no, 20th is going well. The Ecology has, I think, everything they need. So it's just waiting for their decision, and then we'll be ready for bid kind of regardless of permit status end of May. So we can have summer construction again, assuming we get the permit.
Go ahead.
You had mentioned it was the 4th, but then you said Tuesday. So the 3rd is actually Tuesday. So are we certain it's on the 4th or the Tuesday?
It is the first week of June. We're sure of that.
It's,
We'll
Count-
get it figured out. Okay.
it-
all right.
yes, we'll figure it out and we'll share that in the weekly report.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's June 3rd.
So I just had one more question. We had spoken about the roundabout. Any updates on that?
Which one?
20th? The micro one or whatever
The
you
nor-
call it?
Oh, yes. Yeah, Northwest 9th Street and 20th.
Correct.
It's a compact roundabout.
I slipped in.
So yeah, the designer's working on that, and I suspect they'll be done with it sometime this year. I think there's some minor right of way that we have to acquire, so we'll have to, once we get all the environmental stuff done, then we can move to that. So I believe that should be later in the year. But yeah, that should be ready for construction, I would suspect, early next year.
Question, sorry. Nick.
ahead.
It's just got me thinking with this much speeding that is in Daybreak. I mean, this might be a conversation that we have. Have there ever been any discussions about putting a roundabout closer to the elementary school? I mean, that has just the same amount of space too. And that would just automatically, so, because I mean, even when it's 20 miles per hour, these kids and the flaggers, crossing guards, they are almost getting hit on a daily basis still.
So
Except for when the police are present, of course.
So the one at 9th, we were able to get a highway safety grant for, and the justification is there were actually a couple pedestrian, I think at least one, if not both, including children, accidents. So that's what drove that one. I, to my knowledge, haven't seen it farther north, but it's something we can look at.
And it did warrant a four-way stop because originally.
Yeah,
it was just
Onsdorf
straight
and
through.
20th is now a
But
four-way.
yeah, it
It's
used to
been
be
it for a
two-way.
while, but yeah.
It did help a little bit with noise. But
Yeah, and the roundabout will slow down traffic kind of in that, well, I'll call the middle part of 20th on north side.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mark. It's always informative. Appreciate it. And based on the state budget, we may have a couple more projects. I think last I heard, the Remy Park was still in there and Eaton was still in there. So
1.5 million is still in there for the Senate capital, but it's not in the House. But funding, think about 515,000 is in both capital budgets for Old Town revitalization. And then I think the operations budget still has the 100,000 for our document management system, but they've got to do reconciliation.
but we're still
So
we're
far,
still in
so
the
good.
game. Still in the game. Is that it for administrative reports? Okay, any council member communications this evening? Go for it.
So I wanted to bring up a topic we haven't talked about in a while, but I wanted to look at us kind of get the temperature from council on what it might look like to open up the governance manual and re-examine our proclamations. We haven't done a proclamation in over 10 months, almost 11 months now. And I don't know if it necessarily is valid to even have them in the governance manual anymore. So that is, I believe it's section C 21. You know, we haven't really entertained them. They are mayor's choice. It's kind of the mayor's privy on doing proclamations or not, but we haven't had any for 10 months. So I'm not sure if that's because no one's asking for them or if we're just
I've been saying no.
choosing not to. So have you had any requests?
Yes.
You have? Okay. So I would just see if what everyone thinks about not having them in the governance manual anymore. If we're not going to do them, what's the point of having? So,
Council?
Future mayors may want to do them.
Yep.
I guess if you choose not to. We can always change the rules in the future, but
Right.
it's not hurting anything at the moment. Are you saying that we'd like to discuss it in like a retreat type thing, or you just want?
no, we might as well discuss it now.
Well,
our retreat-
basically, I'm looking for, is this something we want to add either to an agenda item or going forward? That's.
Yeah, is
That's what I'm-
this something anybody wants to look at? I'm checking the temperature on it, whether we want to bring it forward in the future or.
Do we want to visit proclamations?
If you want to have a discussion, I mean, you're counselor, so if you want to put something on there to have a discussion about, then I'm not
Yeah.
opposed to you doing that. I'd always be hopeful that if I wanted to discuss something, you guys would be like, yeah, if you want to discuss it for air.
So you're asking to put something on the agenda?
I think you
Is that where it's gone?
want to have a retreat item? Or do you want to have a council meeting agenda item?
Yeah, no, I think it'd be, you know, I don't know if the retreat is necessarily a place for that. I think it'd be a little more effective to have it here on the agenda. I just wanted to kind of bring it up and see, get everyone's thoughts on it, whether you thought it'd be worth having a discussion or not. If it's a, yeah, let's talk about it, then let's put it
Yeah,
on an agenda.
I mean, proclamations can be really important for getting information out, for recognizing groups. I'd be hesitant to remove them, but I'm willing to have a conversation.
I don't mind talking about it, but my personal opinion has been, I mean, if we haven't been doing them, I don't know that what is going to change.
Well, I mean, my whole point of this is if we haven't been doing them, why do we have them?
I mean, future mayors. could-
Well, I mean,
Right.
the reason I'm saying no to proclamations is because I didn't feel good about saying no to a protected class. And if another protected class comes forward, such as National African American Month, and I would, if I said no to one protected class that's protected on a state constitution, I didn't feel right saying no to another or yes to another.
Have you
So-
had any other protected classes come and ask
Yes.
for a proclamation since?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, not since the last one we did. That was voted down, no.
Well, maybe it's worth bringing up.
Like the Disability Awareness Month and
We've had American Red Cross,
Yeah,
several.
we haven't had any of that in the last 10 months. So
They've come forward. I've said no.
you said no to the ADA?
I said no to everybody.
Okay. So again, we should probably have this conversation then. What's the point of having? them?
Well, I mean, the point was it's mayor's purview. If it's not gonna be mayor's purview, then, you know, that was the point. All right, so we'll put it on the agenda item. May 3rd, there is a legislative review. We've had council members there. Do we need to post quorum? That's when the reps come here.
oh wait, When is it?
Town Hall for McClintock and. No, it's a public, do we need to post a quorum? Is anybody, I know, Councilmember Davis has been, was it the last one? I usually go to them. Is anybody, you were at the last one? Should we post a quorum?
I plan to attend.
All right.
They're safe and sound.
Uh,
we having each representative coming?
it's their show. We don't do it at all. Just if there's going to be 4 of us here, I'd rather post a quorum. All right. So, any other council member communications? Seeing none, our next meeting date is Monday, May 5th. There is a study session at 6, regular meeting at 7. It is 8:05. The meeting's adjourned.